Hello there and welcome along to Transfer Talk. Liverpool look set to dominate the window with three key players' futures all uncertain. We will be live to Anfield very shortly for the latest. We'll also be live to Old Trafford, where Manchester United have a decision to make on Marcus Rashford's future. And we'll have news on Joshua Zirkzee, who could also be on the move. Pep Guardiola calls on Jack Grealish to respond after losing his place to Savinho. What does the future have in store for him? And Newcastle face a battle to keep hold of star man Alexander Isak. We will hear from their manager, Eddie Howe. Good afternoon to you at home and those, of course, watching on Sky Sports Premier League YouTube channel. Welcome back, Kwaku Fari, Flex, and of course to Dave Reed. And a warm welcome for the first time this year, Kevin Hatchard. Good to see you, mate.
Great to be back. Happy New Year.
Yeah, and you've always got colourful shoes with you, but unfortunately we can't see them because we've sat you over there. Yeah, there we go. Missed again. One more time. Go on.
Okay, let's go.
Go on, Kev. Oh, just about. I'll move this out of the way. There you go.
There we go.
Right, that's what you want, to give the people what they want.
That's a hamstring pull already to start the year.
He's out, our star man's out. OK, we're going to start, of course, with Liverpool, though, because they, at the moment, have three very big players who are going to be out of contract in the summer. Let's get to Vinny O'Connor, who is at Anfield for us right now. Good to see you, Vinny. Hope all is well. Let's start with Trent Alexander-Arnold, though. He came in for criticism yesterday. The pundits even saying that he was distracted. What is the latest on his future?
Well, first of all, let's deal with what we know. And we know that the lines of communication between Liverpool and Trent Alexander-Arnold over a new contract are still open. And at no point has Trent Alexander-Arnold made it clear to Liverpool that he wants to leave. We obviously know that there has been a bid during this transfer window as well from Real Madrid for £20 million to take Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now that Liverpool have rejected, and I don't see any sense from Trent Alexander-Arnold as to why he would move at this stage anyway, particularly with Liverpool where they are in the title race at the moment. And I think it's also expected that if Real Madrid were to come back with an improved offer, then Liverpool would look to keep hold of Trent Alexander-Arnold until the end of the season as well. The difference is, and you mentioned, of course, the fact that he's out of contract in the summer, and at the moment he can obviously have discussions with foreign clubs and can sign a pre-contract agreement. Now, I think it makes sense as well for Trent Alexander-Arnold to take his time over this new deal. He's 26 years of age. Arguably, this is going to be the biggest contract of his career, both financially and also to realise the personal goals that he's set himself as well. We know he's spoken on record to Sky Sports about his ambition to win the Ballon d'Or, to become the first fullback to win the Ballon d'Or. He's spoken of his ambition to be regarded as the best right-back in history as well. I think when it comes to the Ballon d'Or, the closest a fullback's been to winning that was Roberto Carlos back in 2002. So he obviously achieved that with Real Madrid, and that's where there's another obvious link as well, because the other option, I suppose, that's open to Trent Alexander-Arnold, given that interest from Real Madrid, is that he joins them on a free in the summer. But again, as I said, the fact is he's 26 years of age. He's got to weigh up what would be the best option for him at the moment. And again, it makes sense to take his time. How have we got to this stage? And there's been a lot of criticism directed at Liverpool Football Club as well. But I think when you look at it in context as well, Trent Alexander-Arnold, when he moved into the last 2 years, last 18 months of his deal with Liverpool, it became known that the manager who'd done so much for his career, Jurgen Klopp, was going to be leaving the club. At that point, I suppose, it makes absolutely no sense to discuss a new contract, let alone sign a new deal, until you know exactly what the new manager is all about. He's at that stage now, but it's still, there's so much to be weighed up. There's so many moving parts with here, and that's, I suppose, why we're in the situation that we are.
What about the other two then, Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk? Slightly different cases because they are obviously older than Trent Alexander-Arnold, but they're both still in absolutely prime form. Are there any more developments on their two futures either?
Well, again, you look at what the situation is as regards them. And it's slightly different as well to Trent Alexander-Arnold, because both Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk have kind of dropped those hints that they want to say, that they want to stay. Mo Salah, again, speaking to Pat Davison ahead of the game at the weekend, saying they're so far apart in terms of the valuation as to what a contract should be worth. And Virgil van Dijk very much keeping his counsel to himself. But again, we go back to what I was saying with regard to Trent as well, the fact that the manager, there was going to be a change of manager last season. Don't forget as well, the hierarchy above the manager has changed quite a bit. You go back to Julian Ward announcing he was stepping down as sporting director in 2022. They've changed it with Michael Edwards coming in as the chief executive of football. Richard Hughes has subsequently been appointed the sporting director as well. It's not necessarily made it easy for FSG to sort out the futures of the players, particularly as they're looking to see exactly the structure that they'll be working in. And then, of course, the players, the representatives want to get the best deal for themselves, and the football club are looking to work within the wage structure, of course, as well, and also safeguarding the future financially. They don't want to be putting a player like Mo Salah, who's he'll be 33 in the summer. Virgil van Dijk will be 34. If they put him on long-term contracts that are worth a lot of money, and then their form does fall off the edge of the cliff, then of course it's not good business sense for the football club either. But I mentioned Mo Salah and his latest chat as regards his contract situation. Of course, I spoke to Virgil van Dijk after the game against Manchester United as well. And while there's still all this speculation swirling about, Virgil van Dijk remains pretty relaxed about his own situation.
I don't think so, but I'm calm about it. Like I said months ago, we'll see what happens in the future. And at this point, I've got absolutely no update. And it's all about focusing at the moment for me and for the team on Spurs. It will be a tough game again, but a good semi-final.
So basically, to sum things up, there's no further developments on all three contract situations, which means I'll probably be asking Arne Slot over the next few weeks again and again and again what's happening with their contracts.
And we'll be asking you again and again and again as well, Vinny. Thanks very much, mate. Right, OK. Well, Kevin, of course, is an expert on all things European football. So let's get his opinion now on, first of all, Trent Alexander-Arnold and this Real Madrid bid that's gone in January. Obviously, there is links between the two, and he could go for free in the summer. What are Real's intentions with this January bid, and how do you think this whole Alexander-Arnold Real Madrid thing will play out?
Well, the intention is to sign him at some stage, whether it's this month or in the summer. There's absolutely a desire to bring him in as, you know, a player that can really enhance that right-back position. Dani Carvajal, injured at the moment, has had injury problems in the past. Massively influential player for them at right-back, but well into his 30s, and they are thinking long-term, how do we replace him in the right-back position? At the moment, you've got Lucas Vazquez, who's a converted winger, but he's out of contract in the summer anyway. So they need to freshen up that position, and they see him as somebody who can do that with real quality. Now, the temptation is to think that a bid like this is to make mischief, to apply pressure. Yeah. But actually, the ideal scenario is to get him in this window, because they would straight away get a player who would go into the first team. Dani Carvajal's still out. They need somebody like that to push for the La Liga title and to push for the Champions League. He would help them do that. That's not very realistic, but it's worth a try.
Yeah. So you think it's a very serious bid, this? They're not trying to destabilise. They want him as quickly as possible.
If it destabilises, then it has a byproduct that doesn't harm Real Madrid. But I think genuinely, they would love to spend the extra money and sign him in this month.
I think that's fair. I mean, there has been, you know, some sort of talk about, you know, Real Madrid trying to play games or thinking they can come in and bully people. At the end of the day, this is a player who has 6 months left on his contract. Real Madrid can also, you know, wait until the summer and get this player for free. Now, it is Liverpool's right, absolutely, whilst they're in the hunt for the same Champions League that Real Madrid are, they're in the hunt for the league, to say, well, there's no point really cashing in on him. We want to have the strongest team as possible and not put Conor Bradley under that pressure, they could say. But, I mean, I don't see that there being any problem with Real Madrid offering 20 million for a player who, yes, he's fantastic, but he's got 6 months left on his deal. Yeah. And it would give Liverpool a chance to recoup a fee if they did want to change strategy, which I think it's clear they won't. It's been, you know, that offer's been declined. But they could have said, well, actually, we'll get a little bit of money. Let's look at Conor. We'll be all right for 6 months. But I don't think that Real Madrid are trying to bully anybody, or this is a situation that's happened because Trent's contract's been allowed to run down this far.
Real Madrid can do whatever they want in this situation. They can act in the interests of Real Madrid, which is what they are doing. How about Mo Salah, though? Because I want to move it on to him. It's interesting. We haven't really heard of too many suitors in Europe. You don't hear lots of European clubs popping up in rumours associated with Mohamed Salah. Are there any that are possibilities?
Finance is a major problem for most clubs in Europe. That's the truth of it. PSG is the name that's been linked the most often, and it was linked pretty strongly a few weeks ago, actually. It would be a departure from what they're trying to do right now, which is to build this young French core, get young players and develop them, which is very different to the kind of Galacticos effort that we've seen from them in recent years. But if you have a player of that quality who has only a few months left on his deal and you have the finance to go and get him, and they do, then they have to explore that. So that feels to me to be one of the only realistic European destinations for him.
Mo Salah's up to some mischief as well. On his social media, shared a cryptic picture of him, Trent and Virgil van Dijk. Don't know what that means. There was no caption.
No caption.
No caption to the picture. But he's been on the front foot, not just on the pitch in terms of his numbers, but off the pitch as well. Been more assertive when he's in interviews. He's been more open than he has been in previous years. It sounds like things are in a positive place for Mo Salah. I don't think it's a case of him trying to rush the deal through, but he's making people aware of his position right now. I think he's in a very, very strong negotiation position.
OK, we do have some interesting possible developments at Everton, which we'll probably get into in the next part now. But while you're here, Kevin, and you're going well, just a couple of players I want to ask you on. One signing of Spurs, who not many people will know about, and a Manchester City player who is interesting some German teams. First of all, Spurs have signed this 21-year-old goalkeeper, Antonín Kinský, from Slavia Prague. He's inexperienced. He doesn't play for the Czech national team. He plays for the under-21s. Is this a signing for now or for the future for Tottenham?
I think the feeling is he's somebody that could absolutely compete now. Obviously, Vicario's out injured anyway, but in the long term, could compete with him for the number one slot. I think he's somebody they see as somebody that could go in pretty quickly. In Czech football, they're very excited about him. His dad was actually a national team goalkeeper as well, so he's from that stock. And he's somebody that's had to work his way up the right way. He's had a couple of loans away. He's come back. He's now broken into the Slavia team. He's been keeping lots of clean sheets for a dominant team. So I think there's a real excitement about what he can produce. And he has already said himself, look, I'm very comfortable on the ball. That's something I can do as a goalkeeper. And that fits with what Tottenham want.
Absolutely, that's what they want. We've seen the difference between Forster, of course, and Vicario when Vicario's out injured. And James McAtee, who could potentially be going out of the Premier League. Interest from Borussia Dortmund and Bayer Leverkusen, we're hearing. Can you see that developing into something more concrete?
Yeah, I can. He's not playing for City at the moment, certainly as much as he would want to. Dortmund are looking for ways that they can freshen up their squads and get more numbers in the building without actually spending a huge amount of money. So a loan would make sense for them. They've done a lot of business with City, of course. Jadon Sancho made that move. Jamie Gittins made that move. But also more recently, they did work together on the Jan Koto deal. He made the move to Dortmund. So I think that makes sense. And Leverkusen are always on the lookout for good young players who can boost their squad because they're fighting on a lot of fronts.
Dave, from City's point of view, though, we've heard that they don't really want to have any outgoings if possible. Can you see them in this situation countenancing like another young, promising player going, given that they've already let the likes of Cole Palmer go and that obviously didn't work out?
Well, exactly, yeah. I think we've praised Manchester City in the way they've sold some of their academy products that they believe perhaps weren't going to make it in their first team, but it's bitten them a little bit in recent years, hasn't it, with Cole Palmer? Look at Morgan Rogers as well, who was at Manchester City, and I can't see it happening, especially as Pep Guardiola was quite complimentary of McAtee over recent weeks when he's been involved in the first team. I thought he would have got an opportunity earlier than he has done already this season, but it doesn't surprise me that he's getting interest, particularly from clubs like Dortmund. Yeah.
OK, right, we have already been live to Anfield this hour. Coming up, we're going to head to Old Trafford. Joshua Zirkzee has only been at the club for a matter of months, but is he set to leave? Stay tuned. Welcome back to Transfer Talk. We've had some fairly interesting stories regarding Manchester United in the last half an hour or so. Let's get live to Old Trafford right now to speak to our senior reporter, Melissa Reddy, who very much has her ear to the ground in Manchester United in terms of the team there. First of all, Melissa, obviously the question is Marcus Rashford. How will this month play out? Do you think that he will be at the club come February the 3rd?
The ideal situation would be if Marcus Rashford lands a permanent transfer somewhere. The player has said he's open to a move. It's quite clear that Ruben Amorim hasn't seen what he wants from Rashford on the pitch or off it, and Manchester United are in a sell to buy position, so that would work across all fronts. However, that solution is very far off given the financial parameters involved in doing such a deal. Now, colleagues from Sky Italy are reporting that Milan, they're having discussions whether a loan move would be possible and plausible for Rashford, but that would largely depend on how much of his salary United would still cover. Now, given the fact that Rafael Leao is set to return from injury and he's stationed on Rashford's favoured left side, it's not concrete that Milan will turn what is currently a consideration into actual action. But in terms of Rashford, it's quite clear that it's not working out for him as things stand. It would be in his best interest to move away. How that works either on a temporary basis or on a long-term situation is going to require a lot of contorting from United's end.
You mentioned sell to buy there, so if Rashford goes or if he departs even on loan, will Ruben Amorim then be able to buy?
That's part of the reason why a permanent transfer would be so good for Manchester United, because as an academy product, Marcus Rashford would be banked as pure profit and they could reinvest all the funds of the sale back into the team. Now, if a loan move is secured and a large portion of his wages is taken off the books, that would also be quite helpful. What was interesting was to hear how Ruben Amorim actually switched his tone about the transfer window last week. On Monday, he was telling us there's no point looking at the window for solutions for Manchester United given their position of needing to sell to buy. But by Friday, he was saying to us that United do have their eyes open in the market and they will try to do something. Now, he didn't want to give away which positions the club are looking at, but we know that wing back and specifically on the left side, that is a priority area for them to solve. I mentioned Nuno Mendes from PSG last week, that the club really like him. What I'm also told is there's a need to inject a directness into the squad, more aggression through a more dynamic profile. So somebody who gives you technical quality and speed, strength in the duels, specifically in that midfield area. So I think United are trying to see how they maneuver what is going to be quite a constricted market with their limited funds. They're trying to do something clever and something helpful for Ruben Amorim.
OK, then what about other outgoings then, potentially? We mentioned Joshua Zirkzee before we got into you.
Yeah, Juventus, they're interested in taking Joshua Zirkzee on loan, but neither the player nor the club have engaged with that interest at all. I'm told that Zirkzee wants to stay and fight for his place at United, that Amorim's been happy with him. The way he conducts himself around the place is really good, hugely professional. So far, nothing has changed on that end. Now, United are open to both loan and permanent transfers for a number of players who don't feature in the club's long-term planning now. Those include the players out of contract like Victor Lindelof, Christian Eriksen, Tom Heaton, but it extends also to players like Casemiro and Antony. Suitable offers for them would be considered. And then when you look wider into the squad, there are players there that they may feel themselves they'd want to move on. They feel that they've done all they can at United. The club very much willing to engage suitors because they know in order to reach the next level under Amorim and create the squad more in his image, there has to be outgoings to facilitate all the incomings.
Great stuff. Thanks very much for the update, Melissa. Right, so a few things to discuss there, but let's talk about Marcus Rashford. First of all, with the news that AC Milan are discussing internally whether to make a proper move for Rashford. Do you think it would be a good fit?
I'd share Melissa's concern, actually, about the fact that Rafael Leao is pretty much a lock for that left-hand side, you would think. The change has been, of course, that Sergio Conceição has come in as coach and replaced Paulo Fonseca. Paulo Fonseca and Rafael Leao weren't getting on particularly well. Leao was dropped a couple of times, has just come back from injury, but he's one of their absolute key players if they can get him fit and firing. So where does Rashford then fit? Do they need him through the middle? Well, they've got some quality through the middle already. So I can see why they'd look to add him as part of the squad, but would he be a lock for the first team? No. So does that suit him? Then there's the financial implication as well. I think Napoli have been linked with him. Antonio Conte believed to be driving that because he wants options, because they're very much in the title race, Napoli. They went top recently again. They're up against Atalanta, they're up against Inter. And Conte, we've seen him bring in Scott McTominay to great effect. He was brilliant recently. They won 3-0 at Fiorentina. He scored, got man of the match. He's been exceptional. So there's a link there, of course. McTominay could say, you know, how well it's going in Naples. So I think there'll be interest in him, but the finance is a big deal. And is he prepared to fight for a place wherever he goes and not be an automatic first 11 player?
There's a lot of interesting stuff that we've heard about Man United in the last few minutes. You know, for example, Antony is apparently attracting interest from clubs in Greece and Spain, and also that Joshua Zirkzee, as we heard there, Juventus are interested in taking him on loan. So are a number of other Italian clubs and possibly even some Premier League clubs. What do you make of all of that, Flex? I mean, he's only been there for a handful of months. He hasn't really been able to show what he can do. What's your reaction to that news?
Yeah, it's been a really difficult start to life at Manchester United for Joshua Zirkzee. I think we can all see that and acknowledge that. He will acknowledge that as well. He's coming into a new league, into a team that has been massively struggling and has changed managers very, very quickly as well. He's bought for one system under one manager. Ruben Amorim comes in after a few months and has a completely different set of ideologies that he wants the players to take to. And Joshua Zirkzee hadn't even got comfortable in Erik ten Hag's system, or lack of at the time. So it's been really, really difficult for him. He's had some tough moments, and, you know, it wasn't great what happened at Old Trafford, when there was a mixed reception for him against Newcastle. But since then, the fans have seemed to got behind him and galvanise him. And it's good to see him, or from what we're hearing from the reports anyway, that he wants to stay and fight for his place and stay and see what this looks like. Now, you know, from what I've seen, he looks like he struggled with a little bit of the pace of the Premier League, to get up to speed with it and to get his best attributes to the forefront. But Manchester United, look at the team. The team's been ever-changing. The team has been absolutely, you know, in a terrible bit of form where nobody's looked good. So I also think that Ineos are quite ruthless as well, though. And if the right offer came in on a permanent, maybe financially they would want to maybe get Ruben Amorim something that maybe suits his system more. However, if Ruben Amorim's happy to have him and it's very, very early on, I think you need to give him at least a full season from here on out anyway to see how that pans out. So I'm a little bit surprised to hear that it could have been a move, but I'm not surprised to hear that it's in Serie A. You know, we've done so well at Bologna. Yeah. Really, really, really well tipped to come here and do well in the Premier League. Hasn't happened. So to hear the host of Italian teams interested in him, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, Juventus are interested in signing Joshua Zirkzee on loan. Inter Napoli, AC Milan also interested, and some Premier League clubs. However, we should stress that Zirkzee has no interest in leaving. He loves the club. He's determined to prove himself in the Premier League. So we'll keep you updated on that one. Let's move on to their intercity rivals, Manchester City, because Pep Guardiola has challenged Jack Grealish to respond after losing his place in the City side to Savinho. Guardiola said Savinho is in better shape than Jack, and that's why I played him. Do I want the Jack that won the treble? Yes, I want it, but I tried to be honest with myself for that. Some very interesting comments he made there, Kwaku. What do you think is the purpose behind calling out Grealish like that?
I feel like the main purpose is motivation. The thing that maybe raises alarm bells is those comments are eerily similar to the comments he made about Calvin Phillips. I know that Jack Grealish has contributed way more to the success of Man City over the last 2 or 3 seasons, helped them win the treble. That was his best season at the club. But when your manager is publicly, not calling you out, but publicly calling for you to get back to your best, I don't think it necessarily bodes well for the player. He's not been in the best of form, Jack Grealish. That's been well documented. 1 assist this season. He started 6 league games for Man City. It's a far cry from the player that we saw previously. If you look at Jack Grealish in 2024, those numbers are stark. For a player that was signed for 100 million, let's not forget. 19 starts throughout the year for a City team that were very successful and did win the league. But from his point of view, it's about playing football. This is a City team that are struggling. He still can't find regular minutes. So I think Pep Guardiola is trying to motivate his player in public, and hopefully Jack Grealish takes it like that, because there is so much talent still there, and this team needs him this season. Let's be frank, Man City are struggling, and Jack Grealish is a player that showed us that he can contribute to a winning side.
I think there are 2 issues with Grealish that are a bit unfortunate. I think first is the tag, because that's always going to be thrown at him. You're a £100 million player, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. You should be the kind of player that he was maybe at Villa, in the sense that a lot of it was built around him, and that's what you're expecting, him to go and dominate games, leave 4 or 5 players trailing in his wake. That's not what Guardiola made him into. He made him into a very specific type of player that could, help City keep control of games in a way, retain possession, draw people in, make space for others, draw fouls. He draws contact really, really well. So in that Guardiola way that he has really specific parameters, people have always looked at him and thought, well, he doesn't play the way we think he should play or we think he's capable of playing. He isn't asked to play that way. So, yeah, he's nowhere near the level Guardiola would want him to be at, but I have a bit of sympathy in the sense that the way Guardiola asks him to play is different to what people, I think, expect of him.
Yeah, he's a totally different player now.
I would agree with Kevin on that. And the starts thing that we showed on the previous graphic there, I'm almost comfortable in overlooking as well, because when you look back at the players that are absolute bankers, lock-ins for the Manchester City team, Pep Guardiola is known for rotating every week, and you're looking at some of the key players in that City lineup are only getting 20, 25 starts a season. So I'm almost comfortable in overlooking that. The other thing to think about is Jack Grealish has not necessarily been a player that is fit 100% of the time. He's missed a significant number of games when he was at Aston Villa, and he's had similar injury issues with Manchester City. So are you going to get a full season out of him? Not particularly, given his track record. And he's someone who needs rhythm and he needs game time in order to get up to that Jack Grealish that we've seen at the very top of his game. He's not someone that can come in and go at full tilt straight away. He's someone that needs a little bit of time to get up to that.
I mean, Man City definitely need to get more productivity from those around Haaland, but they also need to tighten up at the back, don't they, really? We're hearing that they've registered their interest in signing the centre-back Abdulkadir Kusanov from Lens, who I think are the second best defence in league. Kevin Danso is also interesting. Wolves, isn't he? So that Lens defence are obviously doing something special. Why are they interested particularly in Kusanov?
Yeah, he's definitely a rising star. He's somebody who's broken into that team with strong competition as well, so that's impressive. He's done well for Uzbekistan as well. They're going well in the Asian World Cup qualifying section at the moment. He's aggressive. He's not the biggest, but he is aggressive. He's a great tackler. I think he needs work on the ball, which is why I was slightly surprised when I saw City link with him. But Pep Guardiola sees these things in players, clearly sees huge potential. Somebody who's right at the start of his 20s, so has a lot of room to grow. And I think he's somebody who has that aggression, who has that dynamism that Guardiola loves. So I could see on that score why he's interested. So yeah, a risk in the sense that doesn't have a long track record, but is really impressed in Liga this season.
OK, right, we will keep you, of course, updated on that and any moves that Manchester City make in this January transfer window. Stay with us, because coming up, Kevin will tell us all about 5 players who could be on the move this window, and we'll have fresh updates from Arsenal. Are they in the market for a forward? We'll let you know.